Hi guys, in this episode of Plummy's Thoughts Zone, I'm gonna be sharing my thoughts on the recent video game that I finished playing through, Life is Strange 2. But before we get into any thoughts that I have about the game itself, there is something that I have to quickly talk about that is still connected to Life is Strange as a whole. If you watched my playthrough of the game, you might remember that I said multiple times that I was going to be playing Life is Strange True Colors as soon as I was done with Life is Strange 2. Well, I am sad to inform you that that won't be happening at this moment. Because it just happens that my PC is apparently not really strong enough to be able to both play the game and record it. That has been the case for a lot of the games that I have played on the channel, like the Far Cry games. Pretty much every game I've had to kind of play around a little bit to make it work. But I literally tried everything, every step that I usually do to make it work, and it just doesn't. So what I've decided is that I will not be playing the game, even for myself, because the game plays just fine if I'm playing it for myself. It's the recording side of things that just doesn't work. So I've decided that I'm not going to be playing it, even for myself, and instead I'm going to keep it for until I get a better PC, potentially, which, if you guys want to help me out with that, go to my Patreon and support me over there, so I can earn more money and eventually upgrade my PC or buy a new one. But yeah, it's not like it's that big of a deal, to be honest, because how many years has it been since Life is Strange 2 was released, and I just now played it, which is something that I honestly should have done sooner, because the game was honestly fucking awesome. I don't know why I thought it was gonna be such bad of a game, because I personally thoroughly enjoyed it, man. It's definitely a game that I really want to replay. Like, maybe at this point I've played Life is Strange 1 too many times, so kind of the magic has disappeared. And maybe it's just the fact that I literally a couple of days ago finished playing through Life is Strange 2, but right now I'm kind of more nostalgic and interested in replaying Life is Strange 2 more than 1 in a way. And I think it's because, I mean, in a way, Life is Strange 2 just feels more grounded. I don't know how exactly to explain, but like, Life is Strange 1 feels more like a fantasy. If that makes any sense. Like, it's still like kind of taken itself seriously, and it has real life issues, but it feels like a fantasized world. Whereas Life is Strange 2 kind of feels more real in a way. And I kind of dig that about it quite a lot. And the fact that there's all these different vibes that you get throughout all the different episodes, I love that. Like, I love how in the first game it's kind of like a camping trip with your brother. Then in episode 2 you're staying with your grandparents in this cozy little winter town. Then in episode 3 you're hanging out with your teen friends. And that's kind of where the best of the game stops. There is still some good about the 4th and 5th episodes, but for me, the strongest part of the game is definitely the first 3 episodes. And I love all the 3 different vibes that we get in all those 3 episodes. Like I said during my playthrough, and if you watched it, you'll see even just by my general demeanor that episode 4 kind of fell apart for me, the game, because it really shifted into a completely different kind of story. And it makes sense that at least the mom stuff would have come up at some point during the game. But I feel like the way it was introduced, I kind of like it, but it really feels so far removed from what we had in the first 3 episodes. Like, similarly to how I'm saying that Life is Strange 2 is kind of more grounded and real compared to Life is Strange 1, I kind of feel like episode 4, and I guess maybe kind of 5, but especially 4, feels even more realistic compared to the other ones. Whereas episodes 1 to 3 still feel like kind of like a It's not really a fantasy, but more of like a dream, I guess, is another way to describe it. It feels more like uh, a, a dream adventure. I don't know, it's just the tone that we get in episode 4 is so far removed from what we got before that. And I, again, don't necessarily hate it now that the game has had a little time to kind of linger in my mind. But I definitely don't have as strong of an emotion for it as I did for episode 1, 2, and especially 3. And for episode 5, I don't even really have much of an opinion because it feels the most, like, I don't know, kind of thrown together, if that makes any sense, because it really feels like the other 4 episodes kind of have their set pieces and locations and everything, whereas in episode 5, I don't know, it just feels like we go from the desert to the police, the border, from the desert to the border, to the police, to the border, and done. I don't know, just the way it's structured feels kind of weird and not really like a simple 3-act structure kind of thing, you know? So that's a little bit of an issue for me, but overall, I do think it's a pretty decent game, and the emotions that it made me feel, I love it. Like, you thought the first game was kind of bittersweet and emotional. I kind of feel like the second one maybe more so, because for the first game, I always felt like Chloe was like super tragic of a character, and I always felt bad for her, and that's why I chose to save her at the end of it. I kind of hate how this game doesn't give you the option to save Sean in the same way, because it really feels like he is filling that spot of Chloe, the person that gets fucked over by the world. It's just that in this case, you are actually playing the character that gets fucked over by the world, not the character with the power. So I kind of like that change of that dynamic. And also, now that I think about it, I think the vibe that I'm getting, or the feeling that I'm getting from the unfair shit that Sean has to deal with, like how the world is completely against him throughout the whole game, really reminds me of the vibe that I get from the treatment that Chloe gets in the Before the Storm DLC, which I honestly really fucking loved. And that one was done by Deck 9, not by Don't Not, so it's not something that has carried over from the DLC to Life is Strange 2, because it's 2 different companies. But it's just that vibe of the character gets fucked over by the world, so fuck the world. It's something that is present in both of them, and I really, really like that vibe, because I feel like I've had a lot of moments in my life where I've, I guess, felt that. Where everybody has been against me, everybody has hated me. Like, I've experienced that. I've went through so many experiences like that. Obviously through my teenage years, because that's when you usually go through shit like that. But yeah, it was pretty bad, especially during the years when there was a lot. I faced a lot of bullying in school. It really honestly fucked me up, because at one point I feel like I was kind of starting to enjoying it, because my psyche was so broken by being bullied so much that as a way to protect me from it, it kind of started to make me enjoy being hated and having enemies that I could have excuse to fight back against. You know, I don't know if that's weird to you guys, but that is something that I experienced, and that's kind of what makes me relate to how fucked over Chloe and Sean are in these games. And talking about getting fucked over, there is something that I really want to talk about in terms of the ending of this game, which is honestly where I used to think, actually, a couple of days ago, that the ending of the game was kind of the weakest part. And I definitely think that the ending and the ending choice definitely does not hit anywhere near as hard as it did for Life is Strange 1. But I definitely don't think that it's as bad anymore, but I still have an issue with the ending. Because based on the choices that you make throughout this game, which is a choose your own adventure game. Shouldn't you, in the best case scenario as a developer, accommodate all possible options, all possible branches that you can get to? Like, I understand that the story doesn't necessarily make space for all the possible choices and branches and endings that you could possibly get based on your choices. But shouldn't you, as the creator of the story and developer of the game, make sure to actually have a branch for every possible choice that the players would make? Like, if you want to be complete asshole and hate on everybody during your playthrough, you basically have an ending for you. It could be the ending where Daniel is alone in Mexico, or it could be the ending where both of the brothers are in Mexico. That is an ending for you. Those are two endings for you. If you tried to be nice throughout it, but you weren't nice to your brother throughout it and didn't really teach your brother how to be a good person, there is also ending for you. Like I said, the ending where where only Daniel goes to Mexico. If you were good throughout the game and you taught your brother how to be moral and everything, you both can choose to stay in the USA. But then Sean gets 15 years in prison. And that just doesn't sit right with me. You can, honestly, if you haven't watched my playthrough, go and watch the final episode and hear me rant my ass off about this, which I'm also gonna do here, honestly. But that is complete and utter bullshit. Based on at least my choices throughout the game, that is bullshit. Because I personally went out of my way to not commit any crimes. Any crimes that the game didn't force me to commit. How the fuck do I get 15 years in that case? And obviously in my playthrough, because I chose for Sean to cross the border, he ended up happy in Mexico with Cassidy, which I'm decently satisfied with that ending. But if I didn't know that the only ending that you get for Sean if you stay in the USA is going to prison, I would have chosen to stay. But I checked the endings that you get for it exactly for that reason, because I remembered in the back of my head, back when the game was released, that there was this ending for Sean where he goes to prison and you see him 15 years after, or whatever it was. And I wanted to check it out just so I can actually get a good ending in my playthrough. And when I found out that the only ending with him free, basically, was the ending where he is alone in Mexico with Cassidy, I guess, without Daniel, and the ending where he and Daniel are both in Mexico, I obviously chose for him to go to Mexico, because considering my playthrough where I didn't commit any crime when I was in control of Sean, there's no way I would get 15 years for that. I'm sorry, but that is fucking bullshit. It's fucking bullshit. And it's even more infuriating because some of the instances, I think probably the most major instance where the game forces you to commit a crime is when you escape the hospital, which, by the way, I did without attacking the cops, so no crime there per se, is stealing the car. And the infuriating part about stealing the car there, outside of the fact that you don't get a choice in it, is that the car is literally there only for the shittiest racism scene in this game. Because the game actually has a couple of racism scenes, but that is the only racism scene which didn't need to be there. It didn't need to, because the characters in that scene never show up again, don't affect the story at all. They're literally there just to be racist to Sean. And to make you commit the crime of stealing the car, because after that scene you ditch the car, so big... Why the fuck did we steal it? Why did we steal it? Just to have Sean commit a crime. And yeah, I personally don't consider it a crime for Sean and Daniel to run away from a crime scene where their dad was murdered by a racist cop. Like, they're kids. I think it's safe to give them the benefit of the doubt that they just run away because they didn't know what to do. Because I personally can see myself running away in that situation. I'm not really good under stress, especially when it comes to dealing with authority. Literally every time that cops have stopped me when I'm driving my car, I've always been very tense, very nervous, and my hands were always trembling because I've been so stressed about it. So I can definitely see myself in that situation running away because I don't know what else to do. So I don't think it's fair to make running away from that a crime, especially when it's kids, you know? So I don't consider anything that has happened as a consequence of that a crime. Like, for example, I don't consider Sean running away from the hospital a crime because he shouldn't be jailed in the first place for anything that has happened. Because I also don't really understand why the fuck does the police keep saying that he has killed the cop? Because literally the first footage of this game that you see whenever you start it is whenever the cop shows up and the car gets turned over and you see the cop flying on the screen. That is literally the only evidence that something happened to the cop. And how the fuck are they gonna connect it to either Daniel or Sean? How? Explain to me, somebody, how the fuck is that something that they can pin on Daniel or Sean? That would literally get laughed out of court. That's why the 15 years at the end that you get if you choose to stay in the USA are bullshit. Because those 15 years are not affected by however few crimes you commit during the run of the game. At the very least, I think that's something they should have done as developers, as the creators of the game. They should have made it so the amount of years that you go to prison for should have depending on how many crimes you committed throughout it, because you get the chance to commit quite a few crimes throughout it, like stealing stuff from the gas station in the beginning. You can do that. It would have been cool to make those choices matter even more, because the only way I think those choices actually matter to the story is that they influence Daniel's morality. Which is fine, I guess, but again, I'm just thinking of ways how it could have been made better. So, if you weren't going to make an ending where if I didn't commit any crimes and I chose to stay in the USA and don't go to Mexico, I didn't go to prison, that's something that you should have done at least. Affect the amount of years that Sean goes to prison. Because it's fucking bullshit that without evidence that we have killed a cop, we killed the cop, they will jail him. Like, on the basis of what evidence? I just don't get it. Like, they have video of him flying through the air and the car getting turned over. What do they think? The kids fucking made explosives? There is no consequence of explosives. You can easily find, I'm pretty sure you can easily find any signs of an explosive being at the location, but there's nothing that they could have found. And it would be wild for them to assume, oh, Daniel has a superpower and he killed him. But we're gonna make Sean take blame for it for some fucking reason. Like, the most crimes that Sean has under his belt is, I mean, what? Working on a pot farm. That is literally the only crime that he has. And to be honest, considering the context of everything, considering that he's underage, considering the situation that he was thrown in that caused him to have to work on a pot farm, and considering that there was an adult who hired him, that person would be in far far more trouble than Sean, especially if Sean rats him out. Sean would very much likely go free, just like his other friends, like Cassidy and Hannah and everybody. That is literally the most he would have to go to jail for. So it's fucking laughable that he even gets 15 years. It really feels like the developers had the story in mind like that and how they wanted it to end and forced it on you. Because that is also, I think, the most extensive ending that we get at the end there, because yeah, some of the other ones have some footage here and there. I hate that the ending that I got, which is the ending where Sean goes to Mexico but Daniel stays and Sean is happy with Cassidy in Mexico. That one was literally just a fucking picture of Sean. That was fucking bullshit. That was definitely the laziest one. But the other ones, like the one where Daniel goes to Mexico alone, that one has some really cool footage. The one that is called Blood Brothers, where both Sean and Daniel go to Mexico, that also has some footage. But the one where you go to jail, that one by far has the biggest amount of footage. And it really feels, because of how tragic they make Sean's story be, with him going to jail and basically coming out of it a broken man, it really comes off as that being the ending that the writers wanted. That is basically like the definitive ending of the story. That's kind of how it comes off, because it really feels like the one with the most passion thrown into it. And that would be fine if we also got an ending that fit my playthrough. Which the one that I got did, but the better one, but that is because just the better one that fits my playthrough better just didn't exist. Which is bullshit, which is kind of why I'm complaining about this stupid ending. Because there should have been an ending where I didn't go to jail because Sean didn't commit anything, and the little evidence of anything happening that they have is flimsy. It's nothing. They have no connection to the brothers. They cannot connect it in any way, shape, or form to the brothers. And the fact that the game doesn't even try to explain or even give you the option anywhere to question on the basis of what evidence are they charging me with anything is kind of annoying. And since we're still on the theme about the endings, I also want to bring up how the different endings that we have in this game are referred to. Because, like, I think you have like 4 endings with 3 variations to those 4 endings. So we're not really gonna give a shit about the variations, because those are basically just whether certain characters show up in those specific endings. But on the 4 main endings, you basically have 2 high morality endings and 2 low morality endings. And what that depends on is how moral your Daniel is, I guess. What annoys me about this is that the high morality ending, one of the high morality endings is the one that I got, which is where Sean goes to Mexico, Daniel stays in the USA, and he's under home arrest or something. And the other one being the ending where Sean goes to jail, Daniel is a free man. That is a load of bullshit. That is not high morality. I would not mind if you referred to those endings as high legality or society-based morality or whatever you want, but it's not objectively the moral fucking endings. Because Sean and Daniel didn't do jack shit to deserve anything that they got in the games. So how can you fucking say to my face that one of them going to jail while the other one is a free man, especially the one that actually killed the cop is the free man, or one of them is in Mexico while the other one is stuck under home arrest? How is that high morality? Whose morality is that? That's what annoys me. It feels like that is the developer's morality being shoved onto me. Because for me, the moral ending, I can kind of agree with the Sean in Mexico, Daniel under home arrest moral ending. But still the most moral ending of all the ones that we actually get is the Blood Brothers one. Because in that case, both of the brothers are in Mexico, free from the effects of anything in the USA, and yeah, they're not necessarily living a happy life, but at least they're not fucking unjustifiably punished by the law. But yeah, I feel like I'm, again, getting way too riled up about this, but that's why I called the final episode of that playthrough Life is Unfair, because that bullshit is fucking unfair. And one can definitely argue that maybe that's the point, that life is unfair, and people like Sean constantly go to jail unfairly. And I respect that. Story-wise, I respect that. Game-wise, though, I don't. If you wanted to tell the story like that, don't make it a choose-your-own-adventure game. Because in a choose-your-own-adventure game, I assume that to a certain extent, I can influence the fucking ending. And when you basically give me every other kind of ending, except the one where the one that I should have gotten, it really fucking pisses me off. Because in the case of something like The Walking Dead, the choices in that at the end are usually, I mean, there's not even really choices at the end so much, but like, the choices there are never really done in a way where it doesn't fit with your playthrough. Like, I feel like due to the fact that the story is already very restricted and it doesn't really branch out as much, there isn't this kind of issue where your playthrough doesn't lead to the choices that the writers wanted you to get to. But in the case of this game, because we basically have almost all the possible versions of the ending of this story except one, and I got that one, it's just fucking infuriating, and I don't like that. And that really leaves for me a sour taste of this game, because otherwise I enjoy it. Like I said, I love the first episode, I love the second episode, I fucking adore the third episode, and I definitely want to play it again because it's such a fucking dreamy episode. I fucking love it, man. But that ending bullshit? Nah, man. Like, I'm still, at the end of the day, satisfied with the ending that I got, because, like, what am I going to do? Fucking continue to whine about it until Don't Not remakes the game and gives me the ending? That's not gonna happen. But it still doesn't sit completely right with me. It's still kind of like a bittersweet ending, which is, I guess, why I'm ultimately okay with it, because I do love me a bittersweet ending. But from a gameplay perspective, it's still a shitty ending, because it's not the one that I should have gotten based on the choices that I made throughout the game. But yeah. And yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have to say about the ending. There's honestly just one more thing that I have to talk about in relation to this game, and that is the fact that everybody says that this game is political. And hell, even I was a person who used to say that. Because compared to the first game, which was very socially aware, or woke, if you want to even call it that, like it had social issues and everything, it was never the focus on it. It was there, but it was never the focus on it. But in the case of this game, a social issue is kind of the thing that causes the events of the game in a way. So it is much more involved into the whole story and the plot and everything. And there's also a bunch of kind of politically charged scenes, like the scene in the gas station with the guy who is like a fucking racist Trump voter. And then at the end of it. But the thing is, I think they fucking make sense. People like that exist. Situations like that exist. So I don't think it's honestly that big of a deal. And again, I admit, I used to be like that as well. When the game was originally released, I was complaining about it being very political. Because for me, it's kind of annoying to bring up specific political issues that are happening at the moment, that are talked about at the moment, because it takes me out of the story. Not necessarily because I disagree, but it's either because it takes me out of the story or because they don't actually say anything about it. In the case of this, they very much say racism bad, but it's not like they go out of in your face and say racism is bad. So it's really annoying when even people like Jacksepticeye, who is a pretty progressive YouTuber, constantly rolled his eyes about this. Like, I don't know. I wasn't as bothered about that as other people who watched his playthrough were, but it definitely annoyed me, especially towards the end of the game, because he just kept fucking complaining about it. And I just fucking disagree with it, because it's not that political. And I understand the annoyances with something being kind of political, because for me at least, from my perspective, it just takes me out of the story, because I play video games, watch movies, watch TV series, cartoons, or whatever, because I want to get immersed in those worlds. And bringing up current political issues, even the ones that I agree with, just takes me out of that. Like, even though I agree that Trump is a fascist and he deserves to go in jail, I don't want that fucking toad in my face in a video game, because I already listened to that bullshit and read about it all the fucking time. Can we not have that for once in a video game? But complaining about a realistic situation where two Mexican kids on the run are going to get attacked by racists is just fucking dumb. And honestly, it has at least caused me to realize that one YouTuber who I really enjoyed quite a lot, like, I'm not talking about Jacksepticeye, I'm talking about Dartigan, the guy who does this gaming scenes videos much more frequently than the guy who used to do gaming scenes, or at least did for The Walking Dead and The Last of Us. I've lost all respect for him. I used to really enjoy his videos because I enjoy gaming scenes and scenes kind of videos, but he fucking constantly complained about those political issues, and from such a perspective of not like actual criticisms like what I'm doing, but from the perspective of like look at this libtard bullshit video game that is telling white males that they don't that they're shit and they don't deserve anything. Like, just watch his video on it to see what I'm talking about. I understand wanting to criticize the political side of things, but that's just not the way to do it, you know? So yeah, I think that's all I have to say about this game. I think overall, I'm honestly gonna give this game, I don't know, 8.4 out of 10. I think it was a really fun game. I'm definitely gonna be replaying it again, though obviously not on the channel, since we already have a pretty high quality playthrough of it. But yeah, what did you guys think about this game? Comment thoughts down below and let's have a discussion about it. And also, before we end this video, I just want to give a huge shout out to my currently 5 patrons on Patreon: Deadpool, August Dice, Little Uzi, Corby Dead, and King Mr. Mew. Thank you guys for your support. I really appreciate it. It really means a lot to me that you have decided to support me and you have continued to support me for such a long time. Hope you continue to enjoy my content and continue to support me going forward. Thank you very much. Another thing that I want to talk to you guys about before we end this video is something that I already mentioned earlier on in this video. That being the fact that I am trans. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because I need your help. Due to the fact that I live in a very conservative and transphobic and homophobic Eastern European country with a family that won't really ever accept the fact that I am trans, except my mom, who is the only person who I've finally came out to, it's not really feasible or easy for me to transition here with minimal to no repercussions. That's why I would really appreciate it if you guys could give me any kind or any amount of support with this that can potentially get me out of this situation. Now, I don't want to guilt trip you into helping me out with this, so if you don't have the means or you don't want to help out, don't feel bad about it, but I just want to let you know that it would be greatly appreciated if you could help me out in any way, shape or form with this, because I genuinely feel like there's no way out right now still. Anyway, whatever your means are of helping out, thank you for doing it, and thank you for hearing me out. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please leave a like, subscribe. Also, check out the description to my Twitter if you want to follow me over there, and to my Wattpad where I post my stories, because in addition to doing all these videos on my channel, I am also a writer. And if you love to join my stories or simply join my videos, you can head over to my Patreon or to my Ko-fi account where you can pledge support and help get the channel going, help support me so I can keep writing the stories you enjoy. But if you don't want to do it, that's completely fine. You can still help me out in all the ways like liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and especially sharing this video with somebody who you think might enjoy it. And I think it's pretty much it for this video, so hopefully I'm gonna see you in the next one. Bye!